Helped establish the Urban Debate League in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2006. Since moving to Arkansas, Leslie has done research about stereotyping, prejudice, and identity with students at Hendrix, and she teaches courses covering a range of topics including psychology and the law, stereotyping and prejudice, and social psychology. She lives with her wonderful husband, Tom, and their two awesome dogs, Colby and Buster. She is also super proud of introducing multiple members of the Hendrix faculty to her two favorite board games, Settlers of Catan and Dominion. So I'm a Settlers fan, so I appreciate that. I think I failed to mention that she is an assistant professor of psychology at Hendrix College. Please join me in welcoming Leslie Zorwick.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So my background is in social psychology, which broadly is sort of why people do the nutty things they do when other people are around. But more specifically, what I have always been fascinated by is stereotyping and prejudice, and how it's shaped by people's identity and how it changes how people think about the groups they belong to. So in thinking about this question of life, intelligent life in other places, I started by thinking about, well, what is it that identity research says, that might be relevant to this question? So it turns out, when we think about groups we belong to, we're almost always defining that in opposition to what we're not. So by thinking of myself as a Southerner, I'm thinking about what makes me different from a Northerner. Or when thinking about my family, I think about what makes my family different from other families I've met. And when we start defining ourselves in terms of who we're not, you see how we potentially laid the groundwork for stereotyping, for prejudice, for any number of things that involve liking groups we belong to best. Part of the reason we do this is because groups we belong to make us feel good. You know, we want to belong to good groups that make us proud. And so once you've set this stage for people to really like the groups that they belong to, then unfortunately you've a little bit set the stage for not liking as much the groups that we're not part of. So it's possible. I got thinking that this is kind of exciting. It's possible that finding out that there's intelligent life in other places would make us go, but here's what makes intelligent life on Earth different. And instead of all the ways that we compare ourselves now, what makes Northerners and Southerners different, people of different religions different racial or ethnic backgrounds, we might think, here's what makes us on Earth different. Okay, so that's kind of exciting. One of the first steps to getting people to lessen their prejudice is usually getting them to think about what they have in common with other people. So I always get kind of excited about media representations of finding intelligent life, which is usually everyone on Earth gets nice to each other, which I guess is possible, because we could start defining ourselves as humanity, and not as here's what makes me different than you, different than that other group. So that's kind of exciting, because I'm guessing many of you, when you're describing yourself to someone else, you don't start with, I am a human from Earth. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other things that seem more useful, but if there was something other than that, then maybe that would feel kind of meaningful. So there's a part of me that thinks, if we found this intelligent life, how cool. Maybe the ways that we define ourselves now wouldn't feel as meaningful. I'm not sure how that bodes for the intelligent life from other places, and what we might think about them, but it's certainly interesting to think about how we would interact with each other. The other thing that I wanted to mention is one of the things that seems to be uniquely human in our social interaction is our ability to take on the perspectives of others. You know, this is something kids really struggle to learn. You know, a 4-year-old may not understand why their mom doesn't want the same cake that they would want for their birthday. But we get better at this over time. We get better at thinking about how is somebody else seeing things. And there's a part of me that thinks, if there were people that saw things really different than us, from a different part of the universe, that maybe that offers us an opportunity to broaden the way we think in a way that we can't give each other. So I think there's real opportunity, potentially real danger, but it's certainly an exciting question to think about how we think about ourselves and how it might change. Because when people discovered the new world, I mean, their notion of who they were changed, because the world was a lot bigger place than they thought. And so I feel confident something exciting would happen.